There's more people here than I thought. Hi, I'm Michaela Slinger, and you're listening to Portside Live.
I just want a dream that I can still believe in. I don't want to lose myself in little pieces. I just want a dream that I can still believe in. I don't want to lose myself in little pieces. 26 now, so in LA, yes, I'm 50. If I've still got time, why do I already miss me? I'm afraid of the distant sunrise. What if these are the best days of my life? Run away, 'cause I know I'm gonna lose this moment. It's going, it's gone. I wanna dream of still believing. Don't wanna chase no long lost feeling. Still got hope, but wanna keep it. But I'm scared to lose myself in little pieces. In little pieces. Indigo sky going all night through the valley. Dancing in the moonlight, spinning as the stars surround me. I'm afraid of the distant sunrise. What if these are the best days of my life? Run away, 'cause I know I'm gonna lose this moment. It's going, it's gone. I wanna dream of still believing. Don't wanna chase no long lost feeling. Still got hope, but wanna keep it. But I'm scared to lose myself in little pieces. In little pieces. I've seen lovers lose their light, and I've seen heroes lose their fight, and I've said too many goodbyes. Alvin, let's go. Wanna dream of still believing. Don't wanna chase no long lost feeling. Still got hope, but wanna keep it. But I'm scared to lose myself. I wanna dream of still believing. Don't wanna chase no long lost feeling. I've got hope, but wanna keep it. But I'm scared to lose myself in little pieces. I just wanna dream that I can still believe in. I don't wanna lose myself.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for coming down. Thanks for coming to Portside Live. I think everybody, can we get a round of applause for Michaela?
Thank you. Thank you.
So you've been pretty busy lately. You've been in the studio a lot. You're releasing a new album. You've put out some singles. Tell me a bit about what's been going on in the world of Michaela Slinger.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so funny because you're always sort of publicly showing one thing, but then as an artist, you're kind of like 5 miles ahead of that point. So a lot of these songs that are on this record were written between like the fall of 2021 and the end of 2022 when I was doing all these writing trips. So like I was saying, I went to Toronto a few times, to Nashville, to LA, and that was just sort of this instinct I had that I needed to leave the nest and like go to these cities that really intimidated me, I think, as a creative. And then I spent a lot of last summer recording actually here in North Vancouver with my producer, Ryan Stewart. So the album has been in the final stages of being done, which is sort of my bad, but I'm really dragging it on. So everything's pretty much produced. We have to just mix and master all of the songs. And for some reason, there's like a finality to that really scares me.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like, the next step means I put it out. So it's like, I'm kind of dragging it along, but it's going to be done soon. Accountability. I will do it next week.
You heard it. It's
it here
recorded.
first,
it's on the
folks.
record.
And then just gearing up for a summer, hopefully, of festivals and trying to put together my first tour.
Yep.
And then still writing a lot, just because that's kind of what I do.
You mentioned that you've been down to Nashville recently, songwriting capital of the world, Music City, the home of country music. How inspiring was that?
It's very inspiring down there. It's very yeehaw.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's yeehaw and pop music too. Like,
Yeah.
I think everyone imagines that I like ride a stallion down the street and like wear a cowgirl hat when I'm down there, but there actually is a really cool.
You did wear a cowgirl hat.
I
though,
did
didn't
wear
you?
a cowgirl hat in my music
I saw
video.
some photos, yeah.
Yeah, but
and
there's
cowboy boots, white cowboy boots.
and white cowboy
Little
boots.
Shania Twain
which
style, yeah.
it was sad. A lot of the outfit from that music video, I had no space in my suitcases, so I couldn't bring home the pink fur jacket that's in the Little Pieces music video, but the boots did make it home.
Right.
And I will find a time to wear them again. Just to like get coffee in East Van, I don't know. Nashville is really inspiring, and I think one of the things that I like so much about it is just that it's sort of normalized down there. If people ask you, what do you do? And you say, I'm a musician or I'm a
Right.
songwriter, you don't kind of get the crickets
Yeah.
that you do just in different places here, because we're smaller
Yep.
and there's not the infrastructure. So it was really inspiring to be around a lot of people who are making a go of it and doing music full time, and have leaned really into the songwriting and the artistry all at the same time. And I would just say something that's so cool about there is that they're really friendly.
Right.
And it feels like one of those talent ecosystems where it's like, if you win, I win, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And everybody is really willing to put your name in the
Yeah.
hat and to try to come up together. So
Yeah.
I've been there 3 times now in the past year and a bit. And every time it's like a previous connection, I will reconnect, and then they will connect me to somebody
Yeah.
else. It's this really nice exponential growth
Yeah.
there that I've really loved.
One morning I was fine and waking up in bed all alone, carefully protecting all my time, planning a life of my own, picturing another place, another time, another face, but there you are. Now you make your way through a closing door. You are everything I wasn't looking for. I try to pull away, but only want you more. You are everything I wasn't looking for. Oh, everything I wasn't looking for. Everything. Sleeping in your twin size bed when I said all I wanted was space. You were irresistible and I was so resistant to change. And now we're lying in the dark. I always overthink this part, but here we are. Now you make your way through a closing door. You were everything I wasn't looking for. I try to pull away, but only want you more. You were everything I wasn't looking for. Everything I wasn't looking for. Everything. Always thought that I knew best. Ignore the feeling in my chest. It changed all that. I'm okay with that. Tell you I'm above that stuff. Talk myself right out of love. Here we are. Now you make your way through a closing door. You were everything I wasn't looking for. Now I can't go back to who I was before. You were everything I wasn't looking for. Everything I wasn't looking for. Everything I wasn't looking for. You're
I've definitely heard of, bands and musicians going down to Nashville to just spend some time down there, be on the circuit and hone their skills and really form tight as a band, right? Kind of like what the Beatles did in Hamburg, Germany, I think it was, right? So
don't test me on music history. That stuff always stresses me out so much. I made this stupid video a while ago where, people always seem so refined where it's like, what are your musical influences? And they're like, oh, my parents listened to this rare jazz vinyl collection. I'm like, Hillary Duff. Like, I don't know.
Kind of on that note, so your parents, did you come from a musical household? There's a video floating around on the internet of you at 3 years old, and your mom's in the crowd, and I see her laughing.
Dad's in the crowd too.
And Dad's in the crowd. There's a video of you at 3 years old at center court at what was then GM Place, now Rogers Arena, singing the national anthem for the Vancouver Grizzlies game, the former NBA team. How did that kind of happen?
I think my family is overall very musical. I don't think either of my parents would identify as musicians, especially my dad. But I was just innately really musical. I think my mom's innately musical, and my family in general is just like, Christmas, we gather around the piano with the extended family. My great uncle plays the spoons, and there's just like a lot of enjoyment of singing. So
is he featured on the next album?
I didn't even think of that. I don't know if I could get him.
He's booked up for a solid year.
He's amazing. He's Canada's best. So I don't know. I was just kind of singing forever, and probably to the annoyance of my parents, just like talking and singing and humming constantly. And so I think my mom was on the phone with a friend, and he worked at GM Place or for the franchise. The details are escaping me, but then could hear me in the background, and then it just sort of, I think it started as a joke, like, oh, does she want to sing the national anthem? And so I don't know if my parents' thought process was like, let's see what happens if it traumatizes her, then we don't have to put her into music stuff, and if she likes it, then it's a good like business case for putting her in stuff. So I think I liked it. I look kind of starstruck in the video, but that's because I'm 3 and I didn't even have the ability to use language.
I think even you see the Vancouver Grizzlies and they're a little starstruck too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know how some memories you think it's a real memory, but it's actually a memory because you've watched a video of it. So I don't know if this is a real memory or not, but in my brain, I remember walking out to center court for sound check and walking underneath the legs of the players, just looking up.
Big
to me, they were to me they were trees. They were so tall. Yeah. But I had a good experience with that. And then from there it was musical theater and singing lessons and piano lessons and little singing shows whenever I could.
If the offer or opportunity ever came up again to return to center court or center ice at Rogers Arena, would you take that offer up?
I would consider the offer.
We should put out a request to the Canucks to have Michaela Slinger return to the ice 30 years later.
The anthem revival.
Or I guess that'd be 27 years later if you're...
27 years later. How old do you think I am?
Well, I know you're 26 because of Little
but I was
Pieces.
3. About 23 years later.
23 years.
I guess if it happened in 4 years.
Right.
So I was like, am I 30?
Time flies. It's those LA years, which
those LA years they just fly
I want to ask you about
by.
Because the first line of your song "Little Pieces," you say, "I'm 26 now," and that's
so in LA years.
In
I'm
LA
50.
years, that's 50. Tell me a bit about that lyric, because that was the inspiration that kind of led to the rest of the song, right?
Yeah, I was in LA for a writing trip, and it was just the first time that I realized, just talking to people, that people lie about their age. They really do. And I just thought that was sort of funny. And I do totally understand the pressure as an artist and as a songwriter. I think it's a unique experience as a woman to feel like your age is this constant boulder you're carrying on your shoulder, and that when you turn 30 or 35 you're just going to shrivel up into dust. That's kind of what the narrative wants us to believe. So I just thought it was kind of funny, because as I'm getting into the later half of my 20s, when you're young, I think I thought 25 was ancient and that I would just have everything so dialed in my life. And here I am, I'm not really dialed at all. So I wrote down kind of a play on dog years. I'm 26 now, so in LA years, I'm 50.
Right.
And then my producer, Ryan, and I, we actually thought we were done making the album. And then we'd been writing some songs, and every time we wrote together, it was just going really well. And we'd been talking throughout the process of recording the album about sort of aging
Yeah.
and like the shifting of priorities, because he's a father and he's married and he's kind of on the other side of this life transition that I'm like looking ahead to, as though I have to climb the summit.
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted to talk about that, and I had this line on my phone, and it was one of those things I was like, is this so niche and random?
Yeah.
And usually when you have that thought, it ends up being a cool thing.
Yeah.
So I showed it to him and he was like, that's amazing. We
Yeah.
got to lead with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. Sometimes you just put your best foot forward, and that's the first line of the song. And from there, I think it all came together really organically. The song is called Petty Things.
How do you unravel a life built up on two sides? Can't cut the couch in half, or take the words that we said back. This is not a clean break. Half of the time it feels like a mistake. Wish that you did something wrong, so I could say I knew all along, but it doesn't always end with a crash and a bang. Sometimes it's a slow and flickering flame that burns down at the coals while you're too busy focusing on petty things. Oh, oh yeah.
Very wistful, nice.
Oh, oh, oh yeah. Try to pinpoint the change. Could I fix this? Could we get saved? Go ahead and blame myself. Tortured by the thought of you with somebody else. We say we want closure, then you pull me closer. Feels like I'm home, but I shouldn't stay over. Oh no, I guess it doesn't always end with a crash and a bang. Sometimes it's a slow and flickering flame that burns down at the coals while you're too busy focusing on petty things. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Do you see it as a waste? I know I don't think of it that way, 'cause it was love until it changed, and all so long we couldn't stay. Doesn't always end with a crash and a bang. Sometimes it's all that could have been. That'll drive you insane. Have you wishing for an all-out blow-up blaze, so I can let you go and get back to focusing on petty things. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Two more for fun. Oh, oh, oh yeah.
Are you guys available to like go on tour? What are your dates?
You know, you're kind of catching some wind in your sails. You're making some headway. What advice would you give to an emerging artist that is just breaking onto the scene and wants to kind of pursue this as a career?
I think I was really fortunate that I met great people really early on who, again, like that everyone coming up together kind of mentality. So I went to a conference, the first music conference I ever went to back when I didn't know how anything worked. I'd never known a producer. I didn't know that you couldn't just upload a song onto Spotify. And I met a mentor who ended up being really formative for me and kind of brought me into what is now my like label situation. Yep. And she like helped me co-write for the first time. So I think that illuminates what I would say is the most important, which it really is relationships. Yep. And I know people say that, and I think it always kind of ends up being interpreted as like you've got to chase those sort of like gatekeeper relationships with labels or managers or agents or whatnot. Yep. But I think in reality, what has always been so powerful and helpful for me is those like lateral relationships with other artists and musicians who love doing it and see something in you. Like those are the people who are going to host you on their couch for 11 days in LA, right? Which I have done. Yeah. I'm trying to go back. I'm like, I can't ask her again. Yeah. I'm like, that is such an overstaying my welcome. But those are the people who are going to like go to bat for you and make sure that you're looked after and just really believe in you. And they're not necessarily trying to get anything from that relationship beyond just the satisfaction of like helping and creating cool stuff.
Tell me about who've been kind of your, like some of the people who've been inspirational in your life, and then also other artists and bands that you've just drawn on inspirationally from their music. If I were to kind of think about you, I think you're kind of like a mix between Joni Mitchell and Maggie Rogers. That's kind of what I hear. If I were...
I just blacked out from delight.
But yeah, tell me a bit about it. Yeah.
That's my North Star 1 and my North Star 2. So you nailed it for the most part. Yeah, I think I have influences who are kind of from that earlier, I mean, not to overly romanticized, but like that golden era of, you know, like the Laurel Canyon sort of era. I'm really drawn to that kind of music. I do think I would say the reason why Maggie Rogers to me, when I still wasn't even thinking I was going to pursue music, the reason why it was so exciting to hear that first single she put out was because I felt like it was the first time where I heard something and I was like, that sounds like something I would do. Like I felt as though I saw my potential artist self reflected in her music, because it was all the best things I love about pop music, but all of the sort of feeling and emotion of singer, songwriter, and folk and more organic elements. So that's why she was so important, I think, for me just deciding to be an artist. And then my friend and I think this was right when I quit my job. I don't know. It's all a blur. But Maggie Rogers was doing an early tour and she wasn't coming to Canada. So it was one of those sort of, I can't swear, can I? You can swear. It was one of those like
funny little bleep.
It was one of those moments in my life where I was like, okay, well, I really want to see her. We're inspired by her. My friend's an actor and a director and has directed a bunch of my music videos. So we flew to San Francisco for one night and we saw Maggie Rogers in concert. And I think that was just, for whatever reason, I think we all kind of have that person whose life we look at and it represents a possible path forward for us. And once I saw her perform live, it was like, okay, I think I can do this, because she seems so uninhibited on stage, and just like the environment she created in her show was exactly how I wanted people to feel if I eventually got the chance to have audiences at my show.
Could you tell us about some of the artists that you're collaborating with and providing some support to? And
well, this is sort of a newer chapter in my artist career, but I love writing songs a lot, and the songs that I write that are for myself, you know, I feel like I normally go into them knowing that I will be writing for myself, but I often will have ideas and then I don't really know what to do with them. And so it's been really enjoyable the past little while to be brought into a session as a songwriter for another artist. And I think initially I had a thought where it was sort of like selling yourself short in some way. I think people were like, oh, doesn't it pain you to give away your songs? It's like, but they're not my songs, right? Like, I think it's more as though you're almost a director or you're writing a story kind of, because somebody else is telling you what their experience is and then you are serving them in that moment. So there's nothing about me. It's actually really refreshing, because if I have ideas for my own stuff, you can just agonize over what the right thing is for so long. But if it's somebody else, I'm like, what about this? Doodle-oo-doo-doo. And they're like, I hate that. I'm like, cool. What about doodle-oo-doo-doo? It's like, I don't care, right? Like, it needs to be good for you. Yeah. So I've been writing with a couple artists in Toronto recently. This girl, Lily DiFrancesco, we had an awesome songwriting session together.
She's pretty big. She was just signed recently to Columbia, was it?
Universal Music
Universal.
Canada. Yes. Yep. So we had a great session. And again, just to go back to how I got into that songwriting session, it was that two friends of mine, Matt and Quinn, who I've written with before, who are co-writers on my earlier single, Can We Take the Night Off? Right. This is what they do full time. They're songwriters and producers. And so they had the session lined up when I was in Toronto. They're like, I think you'd be a great addition to the session. And I was like, me? Okay, cool. Yeah. You know, so it's nice when people are sort of in your corner and they lift you up along with them. So that's been really fun. I've written with some people in Nashville. Sort of feels very complementary to my own artist stuff, because I think in a perfect world, I'm writing songs every day, but I don't think I could put out 365 songs a year, right? So it's nice to channel some of that creative energy into other people's worlds.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, the last question for today, if you had a dream venue that you could play at some point in your career, what dream venue would that be?
Portside Live.
Everybody says it. Everybody says it. Now, I thought you were...
Thank you.
I thought you were going to maybe say the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
No, I think
If you throw on the white cowboy boots and the hat.
I think I saw a really amazing show at the Gorge Amphitheater.
Oh, yeah.
I saw John Mayer play there
Cool.
the summer I graduated high school. So I think doing a Gorge set at Sunset would be pretty amazing. In terms of a local venue, I think I'm realizing I love a soft seat theater. Yeah. I really do. There's something so special about those shows that I've seen. So getting to play at the Orpheum.
Yeah.
Not to go too into the mood board, but like we're talking string orchestra, a little bit of a choir. That would be sort of a dream situation for me.
Yeah.
Is getting to curate that kind of like whole, like a really big listening room. I think is ultimately what I like, because I love to have a mix of high energy stuff and then storytelling, and like the rug gets rolled out and it's just me on my guitar, And I think a theater does that really well.
That's great. Well, on that note, thanks everybody for coming. Michaela, thanks for stopping by Portside Live.
Thank you.
Can I get a big round of applause?
Thank you, everyone.
You know that I love the pictures that you take. The city looks so green, I guess. It kind of hurts to know that life can still go on without me. Overinflated what I meant. I'm an accessory at best. You are the brightest light. I know you'd be just fine without me. I know that love's a choice, and so far you've chosen me, but there's always been a voice in the back of my head. It's telling me that this can't last forever. I'm running out, right out of time. You'll find someone better. I'll let you down, I don't know how. I got you wanting me the way that I'm wanting you. Always think you'll leave me here, but you never do. This can't last forever, but we could try. I can't help imagining a world where we had never met, and I start to dream about the girl that you'd be with instead. Yeah, I know that love's a choice, and so far you've chosen me, but I can't stop this voice in the back of my head from telling me that this can't last forever. I'm running out, right out of time. You'll find someone better. I'll let you down, I don't know how. I got you wanting me the way that I'm wanting you. Always think you'll leave me here, but you never do. This can't last forever, but we could try. Good things end and people leave. That's the only certainty. I wake up in disbelief. How are you still here with me? This can't last forever. I'm running out, right out of time. You'll find someone better. I'll let you down, I don't know how. I got you wanting me the way that I'm wanting you. Always think you'll leave me here, but you never do. This can't last forever. Oh no, not forever. This can't last forever, but we could try. Thank you so much, everybody. Give it up one more time for this amazing band. The luckiest gal in music right here with these three. Thank you so much, Portside Live, for having us. My name is Michaela Slinger.